man, you go to TikTok and you see stuff in the air, some might be drones and whatever. However, you see some things that are moving at Mach speeds, 13,000 miles plus.
Do you want the truth?
Yeah, I want the truth.
Do you want to stir the hornet's nest now?
Give me the cold truth, John. So, John, out of the cadre of different UFO guys that are kind of front and center, the Grushes, the Lazars, the Elizondos, the Greers, the Bell, in my opinion, the most convincing testimony I've heard is from probably the most accredited of the bunch, and that's Colonel Carl Nell.
When I saw him testify, so to speak, when I've seen him speak at lectures or conferences, he is, in my opinion, and I don't think it's really an argument, he is the most highest decorated military person in the history of America to come out and say emphatically that non-human intelligence is real. The United States government has interacted with them. We have the craft. We have the bodies. God bless that man. He's a hero.
Do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that. So let's take a look at the data. So we can look at some folks that have very high level access to information, like Paul Hellyer, who is the defense chief for Canada, has come out and said the same thing. We can look at Ham Eshed, the head of Israel's, or former head of Israel's Space Force, has said the same thing. Chris Mellon, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Intel, SAPCO, has essentially said the same thing. Lou Elizondo has said the same thing. David Grush has said the same thing. David Grush cleared for presidentially level material. So you're looking at people that are in a position to know this, and they're telling you the same thing. What's so unusual about this realization? There's billions of stars in the galaxy. Life here evolved in 500 million years, which is basically a blink of an eye. We've found planets around every star that we've looked at. It's likely that the universe is full of life. But lack of a plan and the potential for societal disruption are key ingredients that would prevent any responsible leader from coming forward with information that they don't have the means to address in a responsible way. It would be irresponsible to do that.
My question is what something Victor said in a 1978 documentary in the 70s. Victor warned us. My question is, when Officer Nell came out, why wasn't it on Good Morning America the next day? What is going on with this country? When I brought this out to a congressional member from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I went to the media to give it to them in Green Bay, the story the following day was Girl Scout cookies are now on sale. And I say that, I use that analogy and I use that example as it is true. And you could take it to the bank. What Victor said in the 70s is happening now, that the intelligence community, through a program called Operation Mockingbird, which is from the 60s, from the CIA, total control of the media, up and included putting CIA personnel inside newsrooms, newspapers, and political offices. Take it to the bank.
Colonel Nell has been with almost every three-letter agency.
It's unbelievable.
He was the CTO of a $2 billion company. I mean, he was tasked with JSOC command and creating new brigades under his command.
Right.
This man is as credible comes. His bio reads, it's one of the most impressive bios I've read.
Agreed.
For him to just say, hey guys, let's cut the bullshit here. They're here. That really made an emphatic statement that they are indeed here. But it's taking heroes like Elizondo Grush, Colonel Nell, and others to really put, their balls on the table and say, hey, look, guys, they're here. Everything has to go into a frickin' skiff. I mean, it's just obnoxious.
Everything has to go to DOPSR.
It's the DOPSR, the
Pentagon
skiffs.
program to leak material.
And Americans are kind of like, come on, man, just hit us with the real,
Right.
man. I think there's a way to drip it where you don't shock and awe, your religious communities. You don't shock and awe your society. And I think this is what they're doing. I want to assume they're doing a slow drip. It's not a event. It's a process, right?
I need to shake your viewers in the UFO community out of this amnesia. If I was a general at the Pentagon right now, serving at the Pentagon, I could look at you and say, we did tell you aliens are real. What do you think Colonel Nell is doing? It's the highest ranking person that has ever come forward. We are telling you they're real and you're doing nothing. So we, the American people, the UFO community, have a responsibility too. And I've been screaming at people with this, to go to your Congress people, to go to the media to say, you are going to report on this, or we are going to do everything we can to shut you down, whether it's picketing, petitioning, stop buying your product. The America has a responsibility to make, what do they call it? The fourth estate, the media, start reporting on this, because the Pentagon can say to America, we did tell you. His name's Colonel Nell.
It's almost like the disclosure's hiding in plain sight, but it's not getting the...
Exactly.
It's not, yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Even with the 1997 Area 51 alien interview, let's assume that it's real. The government didn't prosecute it. It didn't stomp its feet. It didn't take anybody to jail. It sat back and said, let's see what happens. I get what they're doing. I disagree with some stuff. But we have a responsibility now. It's like the ball has been pitched to us, the softball. We need to whack it out of the park, period.
Are they doing this now because they can't keep the lid on it? Are these things starting to poke in more and more? And it's like, because, man, you go to TikTok and you see stuff in the air, some might be drones and whatever. However, you see some things that are moving at Mach speeds, 13,000 miles plus.
Do you want the truth?
Yeah, I want the truth.
Do you want to stir the hornet's nest now?
Give me the cold truth, John.
From what I was told, after the TikTok video, a line serving officer at the Pentagon in this program, the extraterrestrial program, was handed a document that would implicate him if it went bad, life imprisonment. And he pushed the document back and said, I'm not signing it. And that was the day, I have been told, where sides were formed in the Pentagon. Disclosure, keep the cover up going. The money's running out. Money's not only running out in Congress, in budgetary, but the money's running out in our country. What are we, $34 trillion in debt and climbing? So money's drying up. People like Lockheed will not return the non-human intelligent craft. Are you listening to me? Let me say that again. Lockheed basically told Congress, you gave this to us in the 60s. We duplicated this almost to perfection. That's our money, our intelligence, our engineering. You're not getting it back. We don't care what you say. So there is a bloodless civil war going on in the Pentagon. That's why you're seeing disclosure.
A lot of our viewers took issue. There were many comments taking issue that when you started to talk about the spirituality, the demon and angel stuff, that you lost them.
Okay, but that wasn't me. I was simply telling people, quote, people need to listen. They listen, they don't comprehend. I said, quote, what worries me is that there are people at the Pentagon who feel that these extraterrestrials are demonic in nature, that there is an angelic demonic spirituality to these beings. I don't feel that way, but there are people in the Pentagon that do feel that way. And I was communicating that to your listeners and viewers.
And there was a lot of praise. Honduras Savage 538 says this interview could be one of the best, if not the best, UFO interviews in 24.
Wow. Thank you.
Everyone holds their opinion, and they have a right to it. And we
Absolutely.
encourage everybody to come with respect and view your opinion. You have confirmed since our last go around that 100,000% this was shot by the military.
Oh, yeah.
This was for the DNI, the Department of Naval Intelligence. That's been confirmed as an entity that's been since shuttered, right?
5 confirmation.
5 confirmation.
CIA director level employee, a naval aviator that before he went to flight school in Pensacola, the DNI recruited him, a security conference brochure layout in Canada stating that a U.S. Army person, Prinsloo, is going to speak. He was with the Department of Naval Intelligence. We have the Department of Naval Intelligence on a CIA document. We have Richard Doty telling us it's real. Sergeant Michael Munoz, Jason Sands, Michael Herrera, and we had the congressman who was a former naval intelligence officer, former Senator Mark Kirk, when I asked him, what is the Department of Naval Intelligence, basically choke on his words when I asked him that question. So we're talking about 8 to 10 references that the DNI, department, not office, Department of Naval Intelligence, it's real. It's an agency buried in the Department of Navy. How did a second tier California production company know the Department of Naval Intelligence is real to emblazon it on the bottom of that film? Please.
No, that adds a lot of credibility to the piece. Now, recently, we saw a very historical election. Some are calling him the Great White Hope. Others call him the Great White Dope. Trumpito has now won the presidency. Do you think he will be a little more liberal on the UFO? What are your Washington insiders telling you there?
I can tell you what they're telling me, that to expect the loosening of the reins. I expect he's a lame duck president. He can't run again. He's just going to let it all on the line. He knows he got Secret Service protection until he passes away. My Washington insiders, people that if I told you their names, you'd be like, oh, okay, are all saying that it's going to be loosened up. The disclosure is finally got some hands off the reins, and we are going to see some pretty dramatic stuff. Absolutely.
Okay. So
including with the JFK assassination.
Right. And, funny you mentioned Chris Todd earlier. We covered that assassination, and boy,
it was the end of American innocence. And it's when I think the average Joe citizen realized that we are living in a perpetual war economy. And anybody that goes against that grain, they want off planet.
If they can kill the president of the United States, they could kill me. So what they're saying is if they're willing to kill him in broad daylight at about 12:30 p.m., there was like 1,000 people there that saw that. People don't realize that. There wasn't 100 people. There were like 1,000 people. So it kind of was a scary wake-up call, almost like our 9/11. If you believe in some of the stuff with 9/11, it scares you. You're like, wow, our government really is willing to take somebody out if they're going to slow down the machine a little bit in a way.
It's about time they pull the covers on that thing.
Yes.
I mean, that's a whole thing and another lunch. But right now, we're hoping that the new administration releases some good documents. We want that 4K footage too.
That's it.
We want it.
That's it.
We're sick of the grainy stuff, man, and the little, and we all know that if you've got the grainy stuff, you've got the 4K, beautiful, high-res photos. I go back to Mr. Elizondo, who very eloquently said that he has seen photos where there's occupants inside these little vehicles that would turn all of us into putty. And they're ripping around. Lot of activity off this coast.
Huge
activity
off of Catalina Island. Huge.
Catalina Island. I heard recently there's a subterranean, sub-ocean base that these things are kind of popping in and out of. And for the most part, they've left us alone. I don't know if they're controlling AI, but they've left us alone. They're letting us go about our daily lives, right? They're not benevolent, mean, evil beings.
Correct.
But if you've got a probe in you or some kind of implant against your will, It depends who you ask, right?
Not so benevolent. I tell people the analogy, and I think it's a good one. I think right now, extraterrestrials look at human civilization like you and I would look if we went to Sedona and trout fished in a stream. You know, you and I are going to catch them. We're going to photograph. We're going to release them gently. A guy behind us might want to catch one of them, eat it for his dinner. 2 8-year-olds might be behind that guy with rocks, trying to just, being knuckleheads and throw them at the trout. The Department of Natural Resources goes out, tags them the way extraterrestrials have basically tagged us, some of the abductees. It's a familiar pattern. And why are we so shocked when extraterrestrials are doing the basic same thing that we are? What people need to understand, this is something why I am so relaxed about this. I have gotten a grip on my ego. I realize I am no longer occupying the top of the food chain, that there is a higher intelligence that is above me, and there's nothing I can do about it. And something that helps me sleep at night is an overwhelming amount of military intelligence and military insiders who have told me the same resounding story and factual information, which is they're not going to interfere. They're not going to let us blow ourselves up, but they're not going to interfere with our development and what is going to continue on with the entire planet's future.
I've heard the counter to that. If they were so concerned about us using, nuclear fission weapons, why didn't they step in Hiroshima? Where were they then? I've heard that. That would be a beautiful thing if they were concerned about us, throwing matches at each other.
Right.
The thing here is I think humanity's ready for it. We've seen enough, movies to indoctrinate us.
Government's done a great job, haven't they?
They've done a great job.
Since the 1950s, it's little green men in every news program for the past 70 years. Whenever an extraterrestrial UFO story comes on, let's play the X-File music. The United States government has done this like they're playing a Stradivarius.
Yeah, no, they've done a good job.
I'm glad you agree.
No, I have to give them their flowers
absolutely.
For that. Because they didn't throw us in the deep end. They kind of inoculated us a little bit. And that's cool. But I think this generation, especially the guys younger, they're ready for it, man. They're like, bring it on, man. We could do this.
Yeah.
We're comfortable. It's not going to affect our spirituality. It might galvanize your Christian, Muslim, Buddhist faith, your Judaism.
Genesis, God said, and the sons of man smiled when he made the earth. I thought God was the only person when he made the earth. Who were the sons of man that were smiling? You didn't think I'd bring religious into this. I think it's going to shore up religion. I think it is.
If you want to put a Christian veneer on it, you could say they're demons.
That's right.
Or angels.
That's
if you want to put a Muslim veneer on it, they could be jinn. However you want to apply the meaning to these things. If you want to look at it as pure science, hey, we look at Occam's razor and all these various theories about the constellations, bro, and the depth of this universe. Now, when I look behind you, I see the 7th largest economy in the world. I see the city of angels, right? Los Angeles, California. And I think to myself, wow, are we living on a flat plane here? Or are we living on a globe? Do you believe in the flat earth theory, John?
I do not. I do believe we're living on. I've heard so much information about how we're not a perfectly round planet. How the centrifugal force of the rotation keeps. It does hurt my brain when I think about going to the Antarctic and you're actually at the bottom of a sphere, but yet you're on it. It is hard to put that into my brain to know how that happens. But yes, I think there's been overwhelming footage from the Apollo, Gemini missions, the space shuttle, the International Space Station. Yeah, I think I do not adhere to a flat Earth.
Yeah,
but it is hard to grasp into our primitive conceptual framework.
And all the NASA pictures of this beautiful marble are all, CGI. They're all rendered
it's the same
photos. Picture. Yeah, it's just got.
Did
filters.
you see the picture of the other side of the Earth where it showed the Pacific? Have you? Right, you're looking at me like what? First time I saw it, I'm 57 years old. Why is that the first time I've seen the picture of the globe with I'm 57? Just something to think
and
about.
The one thing I saw recently, I think it was a little TikTok video, is this gentleman was showing how in space there is no air, and therefore sound only can travel with air. And you see Apollo footage where they're banging on a hammer and you hear the clink, 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 and you're going, okay, man, that's a tough one to explain away, right?
I'm glad you bring this up. I think the Apollo missions happened, but I think we filmed a mock-up of it happening for propaganda, for clarity. You know, you're bringing back radiation-ruined film and photo stock. You're not going to get the money from Congress. I need to see the Time magazine money shot. That's how I'm getting the congressman to give me more money. I believe it happened, but I also believe we shot mock-up footage to show the American people.
I think that's a great hypothesis,
Thank you.
man.
Thank you.
I think that was done in a studio. However, we've been up in there back and forth, and maybe on different technology, different platforms.
Yeah, in case there was something that happened that went wrong. An astronaut died. Nixon had 2 speeches ready. And if we saw extraterrestrials, we could not bring back footage of extraterrestrial craft on the moon. That was not allowed to happen. And it didn't happen. It was Cannon Air Force Base that we shot the original moon landing mock-up footage, to let you know that.
Forgot who the astronaut was, but when he came back, went to mission control, he punched one of the dudes and said, "You let us up there on little Schwinn bikes when they're flying Ferraris around there." He was
I never heard this story.
I'll have to have our editor pull that up.
Interesting, yeah.
But yeah, he was very upset. He says, "There's stuff flying or zipping around there, and you sent us up in this schlocky thing with tinfoil on it."
Right. You've heard the footage where, and I've been to cocktail parties with Jim Lovell. Oh boy, Houston, we have Santa Claus in sight. Look at this thing. And then I think it was Neil Armstrong who said they're on the ridge of the crater. Right. Wow,
yes.
So.
Who's on the ridge of the crater? That's another thing. The moon fascinates us all. It doesn't spin. It doesn't rotate. It just sits in a stationary orbit.
Right.
It just all
perfectly placed, as they say.
It all feels so weird, and it just keeps getting more and more weird, doesn't it, John?
The apocalypse. The apocalypse is not a devil with hooved feet standing on a mountain with lightning and thunder. The apocalypse means to reveal. We're going to start getting revelations that is going to be earth-shattering. That is the apocalypse, not some Armageddon battle to end all battles, but we are going to start hearing and seeing and witnessing the truth. That's what the apocalypse means.
Did you ever get into this whole jubilee, this whole movement that everything is going to be reset, our debt system, our monetary system?
It's a matter of accounting, not a matter of, my esoteric beliefs or anything like that. Remember, I'm the guy that came on your program a year ago and said, watch the petrodollar. And what happened? BRICS came along and wars started to come along. Believe me, the only way you stop a country from going into a depression is to have another war. So I am terrified that that's not going to happen with President Bush being elected, and hopefully he can stop World War III. And I can't even believe that's coming out of my mouth.
Or did you mean Trump?
Trump.
Yeah.
The election of President Trump, that I hope he is able to thwart World War III. I can't even believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, well, it's rightfully said. I mean, you've got the Ukraine conflict. Biden kind of gave him Trumpito a parting gift when he launched some missiles in the interior of Russia. He said, okay, deal with this mess, Trump. And then you've got the Middle East. Gaza's a parking lot. Aleppo just fell to rebels who you and I know are probably backed by us.
Right.
Let's just keep it real. Again, it's the Mujahideen all over. We loved bin Laden when he was fighting the Russians, and then we got another bite at the apple by cleaning him up. So it just keeps going on and on, and we're all sick of war, man. We've been a warring state for years. This is a wartime economy, and it's all going on behind us, man.
I've been laughed at for what I'm about to say, but if you and I go to the Pentagon every day for 30 years and we walk down thumbprint, retina scanner, 2 keys, and it brings us down to level 30 underneath the Pentagon, and we're in the war room, what do you think we're going to do? plant flower boxes. You know, when you put men and women in pre-combat situations, you lock people in a room metaphorically, the outcome is going to be war. And I don't know what the answer is to that. Somehow we have got to overcome this wartime economy because we're $34 trillion in debt. There's no more money. There's no more money for the extraterrestrial program. I just saw in the paper 707 military bases, installation, building, you name it, around the world. What do we need all that for? We don't need that.
You know, just several blocks away from you, there's people living on the streets barefoot.
It's terrible.
Come on, we got to help these people, man. These are our citizens. They're downtrodden. There's a lot of mental and drug use, but
I'm really proud of you bringing this up, by the way.
But let's build one less aircraft carrier and clean up our streets.
The Jon Stewart philosophy.
Come on, man.
You know, the congressman will tell you, yeah, I tripped over that guy whizzing on the subway in Washington, D.C. I got to go to work. And no. We elected you to take care of. I know he's crazy. I know he can't function in society, but I work my ass off every day and pay my taxes. I'm willing to take care of that guy. That's okay. I am not willing at this point to take care of people in Ukraine and in other parts of the world and giving breaks and money to every country in the world when my own brothers and sisters, whether they're 1,000 miles away, are starving on the street and, like you said, barefoot with no hope and no solutions. I can't buy that.
So, Jon, recently you launched a pay-per-view on this
the alien interview
case closed.
Yeah.
And to date, it's got about 700 buys so far. So it's
hardly any advertising. We just started advertising, so hopefully we'll be somewhere in the 5,000 to 6,000 range. It's not about the money; it's getting the word out. I am so proud of my team. What we did,
and you could have easily priced that in $19.99.
And
you made it. You made it
like
reasonable. $8.
Yeah.
A cup of coffee, and you could get gamed up on the whole thing.
That's right. Yeah, we talked about the government's involvement with extraterrestrials, Project Aquarius, from 1945 up until today. We talked about where it's located right now, the Dugway Proving Grounds. We talked about S4, Papoose Dry Lake, south of Area 51. And we did what I set out to do 5 years ago and who I've been looking for 27 years. I found Victor, and Victor is, without a shadow of a doubt, the 1970s, 80s ufologist, Stan Deyo, who was an Edward Teller protege, worked in reverse propulsion in Australia. He was the first UFO whistleblower in the 70s. Many people don't know that about him. And about every 10 years, he would come out of hiding, so to speak, with some sort of UFO disclosure. In 97, with the alien interview, he certainly had the grand finale. Came back in 08, said, find me, find out who I am. And we found him. His name is Stan Deyo. He's a ufologist. He still has a website. He's still out there lecturing about the end of the world, about solar flares. Probably one of the most intelligent people this country has ever produced. But 30 years later, I found it's like finding your father.
Right.
After all this time, I found him. Victor is Stan Deyo.
So, Jon, for our viewers that aren't really debriefed on Victor, they're probably going, who the F is Victor, right? How can our audience see that pay-per-view? Where does it live? On Amazon?
Yeah, the pay-per-view link is on my website, huntingvictor.com. Victor is the man that brought out this 3-minute bizarre alleged extraterrestrial interrogation in 1997. No one has found this man in 27 years. And in March, because of you, your program, and Chris Todd, and I am not joking around here, I was able to find Victor.
That's beautiful. Jon, thank you for coming all the way from Chicago to LA, and we wish you a safe trip back home.
Thank you, guys.